The Premier League is experiencing an unprecedented billion-pound stadium investment wave in 2025, with multiple clubs pursuing capacity expansions and entirely new builds. Financial pressure from matchday revenue competition is driving the most ambitious venue development period in English football history. Welcome to Big Builds. Manchester United's exploration of a £2 billion new stadium at Old Trafford represents the most audacious project in this development wave. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's Ineos ownership group has commissioned feasibility studies for a completely new venue that could accommodate 100,000 supporters, which would establish a new European attendance record and restore United's position as the continent's largest football venue. The current Old Trafford, with 74,140 seats, requires substantial structural work just to maintain its current capacity. Engineering assessments have revealed that the stadium's aging infrastructure makes expansion more expensive than new construction, leading INEOS to pursue the more dramatic option of an entirely new facility adjacent to the existing ground. Dr. Sarah Mitchell from Manchester Business School's Sports Management program believes United's new stadium ambitions reflect the changing economics of Premier League competition. Matchday revenue has become critical for financial fair play compliance, Mitchell explains. United generates approximately £128 million annually from Old Trafford, but a new 100,000 capacity venue could double that figure. Manchester City's Etihad Stadium presents a different expansion scenario, having already grown from its original 47,000 capacity to the current 55,017 seats through systematic additions. City Football Group's resources and long-term planning suggest further expansions are likely, particularly if the club continues competing for Premier League titles and Champions League success. The Etihad's modular design allows for additional phases without disrupting operations, making it an ideal candidate for incremental growth. City's success in recent years has generated substantial demand for season tickets and matchday attendance, supporting the business case for continued expansion to potentially 60,000 or more seats. London's stadium development activity represents the most concentrated venue investment in any single metropolitan area globally. Arsenal's £400 million Emirates expansion to 80,000 capacity headlines the capital's ambitious projects, but several other clubs are pursuing significant developments simultaneously. Chelsea's exploration of stadium options has intensified following the club's sale to Todd Boehly's consortium. Stamford Bridge's current 40,341 capacity severely limits Chelsea's revenue potential compared to Premier League rivals. The club is evaluating both expansion of the existing venue and potential relocation to a larger site elsewhere in London. The challenges of expanding Stamford Bridge include its location in densely populated Fulham, surrounded by residential housing and transport infrastructure that would struggle with significantly increased capacity. Chelsea's architects are studying innovative solutions that could add 15 to 20,000 seats while respecting the neighborhood's character and addressing local concerns. Crystal Palace's Selhurst Park expansion from 25,486 to 34,000 represents a more modest but equally significant project for the Eagles' ambitions. The expansion would increase capacity by over 30%, providing crucial additional revenue for a club that competes with limited resources compared to Premier League giants. Palace's expansion design focuses on rebuilding the Arthur Waitestand and adding capacity to existing structures where possible. The project's £150 million budget reflects the challenges of working within the constraints of an existing venue while maintaining operations during construction. Fulham's recent improvements to Craven Cottage demonstrate how smaller-scale projects can still deliver meaningful results. The club's careful restoration and modest expansion to 29,600 capacity maintains the venue's historic character while improving fan amenities and generating additional revenue streams. Newcastle United's potential under Saudi Arabian ownership represents perhaps the most intriguing expansion scenario in the Premier League. St. James Park's current 52,305 capacity could potentially grow to 70,000 or more with appropriate investment. But the club's ownership has also explored entirely new venue options. The Saudi-backed ownership group's financial resources dwarf most Premier League competitors, making ambitious stadium development entirely feasible. Newcastle's passionate fan base and the city's limited entertainment options would support significant capacity increases, particularly if the club returns to European competition consistently. Leeds United's return to Premier League football has renewed focus on Ellen Road's expansion potential. The current 37,890 capacity constrains the club's revenue generation in England's top flight, making expansion a priority for sustainable Premier League membership. Leeds' expansion plans focus on rebuilding the South Stand and adding capacity throughout the venue to reach approximately 50,000 seats. The club's historic support base and Yorkshire's limited Premier League representation provide compelling demand for increased capacity. Aston Villa's Villa Park represents one of the Premier League's most expansion-ready venues. The current 42,640 capacity could grow significantly with appropriate investment, and the club's recent European qualification has generated renewed interest in capacity increases. Villa's ownership group has allocated resources for stadium improvements and potential expansion, recognizing that increased capacity would support the club's ambitions to compete consistently in European competitions. Birmingham's strong football culture and Villa's historic status provide a foundation for successful expansion. Dr. James Patterson, sports facility economist at University of Birmingham, believes the Premier League's stadium investment wave reflects fundamental changes in football economics. Television revenue continues growing, but matchday income remains crucial for the most successful clubs, Patterson explains. Venues that can generate £60 to £80 million annually from attendance have significant advantages in player recruitment. Nottingham Forest and Brighton and Hove Albion represent clubs evaluating expansion options from different competitive positions. Forest's return to Premier League football after decades in lower divisions has created demand that exceeds their current capacity, while Brighton's consistent top-flight performance has generated increased support and corporate interest. The combined investment across these Premier League projects could exceed £3 billion when including infrastructure improvements, planning costs, and extended timelines. This level of venue development is unprecedented in English football and reflects the league's continued growth as a global entertainment product. Construction industry analysis suggests the Premier League expansion wave will strain specialized stadium construction resources. The relatively small number of firms with appropriate experience in large-scale sports venue development means clubs may face increased costs and extended timelines as demand exceeds supply. Labor market implications include significant job creation across multiple regions, but also potential shortages of specialized tradespeople experienced in the complex stadium systems. The Premier League clubs will likely need to coordinate construction schedules to avoid competing for the same resources simultaneously. Planning permission processes represent the most significant potential obstacle for many expansion projects. Local councils generally support Premier League clubs due to economic benefits, but resident concerns about traffic, noise, and neighborhood character can delay or modify ambitious expansion plans. Transport infrastructure improvements will be necessary for most expansion projects, particularly in London, where existing systems already struggle with current attendance levels. Transport for London and regional authorities are coordinating with clubs to ensure adequate public transportation capacity for larger venues. The environmental impact of multiple simultaneous construction projects across the Premier League requires careful coordination with sustainability goals. Clubs are increasingly incorporating green building standards and renewable energy systems, but the scale of development raises questions about carbon emissions and resource consumption. Financial modeling for these expansion projects assumes continued growth in Premier League commercial revenue and sustained fan demand. However, economic uncertainties and potential changes in football's financial structure could affect the viability of the most ambitious projects if revenues decline or costs escalate beyond projections. The Premier League's expansion wave extends beyond England's borders as clubs compete with European rivals who are also investing heavily in venue improvements. Barcelona's Camp Nou renovation, Real Madrid's Bernabeu transformation, and other major projects across Europe create competitive pressure for English clubs to upgrade their facilities. International fan-based development supports the business case for larger venues, as Premier League clubs increasingly attract supporters from around the world who travel to England specifically to attend matches. This tourism component adds revenue potential beyond traditional local support bases. The Premier League is entering an unprecedented stadium investment era, with multiple clubs pursuing transformational venue projects that will reshape English football's landscape. Big Builds will monitor all these projects as planning processes advance and construction timelines develop. Subscribe for comprehensive Premier League stadium coverage, tracking the biggest developments across English football's most ambitious building programs.